being part of the 5,000 Role Models has meant so much to me. It's been a great opportunity, and I'm thankful for all the mentors I had with me to guide me through my school years. Dale Sims, my teachers, to push me forward, to strive for great education, surrounded by wonderful brothers that look after me and that look after each other.
We do little activities. We meet every Wednesday morning, talk about our day, talk about what our plans are, talk about how to be successful. And then I always say, we are. And they say 5,000. And then I let them go to class.
What we really need is this generation to follow me, to know that they need to be engaged in the criminal justice system as well, because when they sit in these seats, they can have a positive impact immediately.
I'm delighted to be here at Miami Beach Senior High School to talk about the intergenerational impact of the 5,000 Role Models and disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline.
About the prison trips. By them being exposed to certain things, they realize this is not the spot to be in,
right?
Or we shouldn't be doing this type of thing. So the exposure is very, 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 very vital.
All our community leaders, they become mentors, and that actually helped them take a different road than, just say, I'm gonna just give myself to the streets.
And when I saw this, I knew I wanted to be a part of it. It to me is an extension of what I've learned at home, the training and the background that I have.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marcus Bright. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence TV show on MDC-TV. We were honored to be joined by District 1 School Board member for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Dr. Steve Gallen. Dr. Gallen, you've been a teacher, a principal, an administrator, school superintendent, and now a school board member. What perspective can you give on what is known as the school-to-prison pipeline?
Well, obviously, not only have I served in those particular roles, it's the space that I've been located. I've primarily served in the urban core, and I've had an opportunity, for better or for worse, to see how the school-to-prison pipeline has been perpetuated over the course of nearly 3 decades, but more importantly, I've seen how we have an opportunity to mitigate and abate the school-to-prison pipeline through effective programming, through community engagement, and quite frankly, through the provision of a quality education for all of our students, specifically our young men of color.
Joining us now is the former director of the Miami-Dade County Police Department and current Assistant Chief of the Miami Gardens Police Department, JD Patterson, and 5,000 Role Models of Excellence student, Henry Robinson. Chief Patterson, you've been involved with the program a number of years. Can you talk about the importance of the mentorship component of the 5,000 Role Models?
The relationship that we have in the mentorship program is that we build positive interactions with our young men and women. Because the reality is we want to be a sort of like a beacon of hope for them, a light of example, and sort of like to show them the way, because there is a way that they can achieve the same things that some of their mentors have achieved. And we want to give them the confidence that they need and make them feel comfortable in a setting that's highly competitive sometimes just in this world. And as young men, they need to know that they can basically push their way through, what's the right word, sort of like exert their determination to become somebody. And we want to help them do that.
Absolutely, and there's been so much in the national media about the relationship between boys of color and law enforcement. What are some best practices that you've seen in your career to improve police and youth relations?
Well, believe it or not, there's a lot of best practices that are out there that can help us improve relations. But one of the major ones is just simply to communicate and to have a dialogue and to have a relationship. So the 5,000 Role Models gives us a forum, if you will, to reach out to our young men and talk up to them about what the police are like even before an interaction. So therefore it gives us a venue for sharing education information with them. And a lot of the things that makes it successful is these public safety symposiums we have.
Yes.
Because their safety is connected to things beyond law enforcement as well, like health, like employment, like being able to present yourself. So we talk about it from a law enforcement perspective, and we basically tell them quite clearly all the time to be calm, because they are in control of that interaction, and they can have an impact on that interaction. So even if a policeman is being hostile or harsh, if we respond in a way that's not hostile or harsh, we still have an impact on the outcome.
Wow, great guidance for our young men. And you spoke about the importance of being preemptive. Henry, one of the precursors often to incarceration is a student dropping out of school. What are some of the reasons why you've seen people drop out of school?
I think it has to do with the fact that teachers aren't really showing that much dedication to their student. They're not really focusing on the content of the student. They need to focus more deeply about the student, like really understand their mindset and understand like how do they need to seek their needs in school. How should I like go about when teaching this student, and making sure that they're getting the full knowledge of the lesson throughout the school year.
How can we as adults better support you and your peers?
Well, I feel that the teacher needs to find a good experiment where she can understand her student and her lesson. And she needs to try to incorporate into his learning. Some students might be suitable if it's outside or inside. Some students might be suitable if it's visual learning or hands-on learning. Some students might be suitable if it's like a life lesson learning to understand the course. For me, I'm a visual learner, so I need to see the picture to understand the lesson. Now, if the teachers or adults can do that with students, they'll be fully and successful with teaching the student.
Chief Patterson, studies have shown that often boys of color receive harsher penalties for the same infraction. What can we do to create a fairer criminal justice system?
Believe it or not, I think a couple years ago there was a study done on the criminal justice reform. I think some of those recommendations need to be applied, and some of those recommendations basically talk about just understanding what is called bias. You know, we all sometimes have biases even about our young brothers and sisters because they are in fact much more technologically sound than we are. So they're going to have phones, they're going to be doing things. So we got to understand the difference between generations as well as you know, our system needs to change. There were some things that were illegal in the day, like possession of marijuana, where there are states now who basically legalized it, and there will probably be a national effort to legalize it one day in the future. So we got to understand about the evolution of the process and be willing to adjust ourselves as well. So I think building a relationship with our youngsters, talking with our youngsters, empathizing with our youngsters, even changing the systems of punishment, if you will, within the criminal justice system, and understanding how bias impacts it and trying to eliminate is all healthy. So I think we need to continue to do that. And even again, the 5,000 role models with this forum, we had a forum with the Dolphins, I think, where some of the players talked about what they went through as young men. Can you imagine that? Wow. A young man like him hearing that a Dolphin, a professional athlete, went through something similar. It gives them the strength to know that I can become those things and overcome those things as well. But from the police perspective, the police got to also understand their role, and their role is not to go out and be judge, jury, or executioner. That thing about serving and protecting really means something.
Absolutely. And conscious and unconscious bias can certainly play a significant role. Henry, what would your message be to the law enforcement officials that may be watching today?
My message would be that you need to connect with the students. Treat them as if they were your own friend or someone that you knew in the neighborhood, because you want to set some kind of like a role for them, you know? Show them that you're an upstanding guy and you care for their needs and you care for their future, and you actually would like to see them succeed in their future life, and you would like to see them go somewhere in their future life instead of ending up in prison.
Great points, especially about empathy. But you know, Chief Patterson, we need so much more.
Yeah, we do need a whole lot more. What we really need is this generation to follow me, to know that they need to be engaged in the criminal justice system as well, because when they sit in these seats, they can have a positive impact immediately.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
5,000 Role Models is very solid in terms of its ability to mitigate some of the pernicious policies that perpetuate the school-to-prison pipeline, and we have to work collectively to mitigate and abate that, and I think this is a viable, proven solution and one that has been successful over the course of 25 years.
After the break, we'll be joined by Tyrone Hilton and Lamarck Anderson to talk about the importance of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence chapter.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
asked Dr. Gallen about what policy prescriptions he would like to see put in place to increase access and equity for boys of color.
So we make investments into prison when we don't make investments into education. So we have to be, first of all, upfront and true to our core beliefs and our core values, and make those sound investments in terms of resources, both monetary and otherwise, in terms of programs, in terms of partnerships, and in terms of the promises that we've made to reach, teach, and elevate all students, specifically young men of color, who have a likely chance of going to prison than they do going to college. So we know all that we need to know. I collectively have always said that Ron Edmonds has spoken truth to power. We know more than we need to know. It's about how do we feel about the fact that we have not done the things that we must do to make sure that all of our students are successful. When we look at a knowledge base, the 5,000 Role Models program is a program that was a manifestation of sound policy. There was a policy commitment. There was a solid investment into this particular program that has yielded a strong ROI over the past 2 decades. So I think from a policy standpoint, first, we have to make that commitment to equity, and we have to be very upfront about the investments we are willing to make on the front end of our young men's education.
I'm delighted to be joined by J. Tyrone Hilton, Site Director at William Turner Technical Arts High School, and former Miami Northwestern Senior High School Site Director, Lamarck Anderson. Mr. Hilton, let's start with you. What are some of the activities that you do with your chapter?
Well, first we have a meet and greet, so we get to know each other, see how things are. And then we also have a little social at Turner Tech, where we kind of partner off the seniors with the freshmen, upcoming freshmen role models. After that, man, basically we do little activities. We meet every Wednesday morning, talk about our day, talk about what our plans are, talk about how to be successful. And then I always say, we are. And they say 5,000. And then I let them go to class.
You mentioned weekly meetings.
Yes.
Talk about the consistency and the importance of having that consistent interaction with your weekly meetings.
I feel that is important because actually it's like a release. You know, it's very important because Monday or Tuesday they may have had a rough day. So Wednesday when we get together, we talk about those things. How was your day? How things are going? How you doing in your classes? And it's a refreshing to them. So Wednesday, the rest of the day, man, they're all right. They're released, and so they feel better, and they feel like they can move on.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson, you're a former site director at Miami Northwestern Senior High School. You now assist Mr. McCray there on a regular basis.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you saw to be very effective during your years at Northwestern?
We have something there that's called Club Rush. We kind of start out the box before most of the school clubs that are around the school. And a lot of the young men come to the Club Rush. It's almost like a fraternity. You would call that a smoker if you were in college. So that's it's like a meet and greet, as Mr. Hilton said, where our young men come in who are very interested, or the existing brothers who are in the chapter, they bring a young man with them. And you know, it's like a turn on and a meet and greet. You know, let me turn you on to this organization. These are the benefits of this organization. So it has been very successful over the years.
What kind of trips have you all taken with the 5,000 Role Models with your chapters?
The famous one is the prison trip. You get a chance to go down and meet the inmates, they actually talk to us and tell us what happened. Very interesting, man.
Yes, it is.
A lot of times, here's the thing, man, is when they get off the bus, they're not trying to go up in there. But we make it in, and they come out refreshed and like, okay, Miss Hilton, we get it now.
Well, one of the missions of the 5,000 Role Models Project is disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline. In what way can chapters step in there and play a role in that?
Well, I really feel about the exposure as far as the program, you know, is concerned. The different summits, teen summits, very vital. very vital. And as Mr. Hilton was saying about the prison trips, by them being exposed to certain things, they realize this is not the spot to be in,
Right.
or we shouldn't be doing this type of
Absolutely.
thing. So the exposure is very, 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 very vital within this program.
As it pertains to exposure, what do you think are some of the key elements, Mr. Hilton, to expose students to early to help them to become a man?
To help them become a man. Man, listen, I think the exposure need to start in elementary school with our young brothers, our young elementary kids, introducing them to so many people in the community, positive. In a positive, you see all our community leaders, they become mentors, and that actually helped them take a different road than, just say, I'm gonna just give myself to the streets.
Yeah.
So it helped them take a different road, and so it's very important, very important.
Mr. Anderson, what advice would you say? You've been instrumental in getting financial aid for so many students at
Oh, yeah.
Miami Northwestern. What would you say to students now who are sophomores, juniors, seniors, in terms of what they should do in their post-secondary preparation process?
Right now, they should be getting ready to take the ACT or the SAT, or even a PERC if they're getting ready to attend Miami-Dade College, which is another outlet, or should I say another avenue. So our parents and our young men should be getting together, getting ready to do the financial aid.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you for the work that you all do in building the cornerstone of the 5,000 role models, which are the chapters.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Right after the break, we'll be joined by Miami Beach Senior High School Site Director, Coach Dale Sims, to talk about the intergenerational impact of the 5,000 role models.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
Dr. Gallen emphasizing the importance of higher education and mentorship.
Higher education, whether or not it's Miami-Dade Community College, whether it's FIU, whether it's a historically black college and university, higher education is a critical pathway toward mitigating and abating the school-to-prison pipeline. So for young men of color, higher education is a viable pathway. What we must do, however, is to ensure that at the early stages that young people come to realize the importance of college. I think many of our young people, young men of color specifically, lack a sense of awareness about the role that a college education can play in their lives and in their futures. And when I look at my own life, and I look at the cohorts that came up in Liberty City with me, the major factor in our lives versus their pathway toward prison, poverty, or an early death, and my pathway toward a profession of prosperity and promise was an education. That was the deciding factor. I was no smarter. I was not any much more blessed in terms of resources and access. We all had an opportunity, but higher education, the foundation that I had from the mentors and the role models that invested in me and saw something in me early on and opened up my eyes through a sense of awareness relative to that there's life after high school, there are opportunities beyond what we saw in Liberty City, and that there is a whole world out there that we can experience and realize through the pursuit of an education was the deciding factor that brought me through college to earn a master's degree, a doctorate degree, be a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, a superintendent, and now the elected school board member. Education was the critical catalyst for my learning and my lifelong success. And that's what I espouse to all young men, specifically men of color. And we have to make sure that our policy positions and our provisions of resources to provide for that equity and that access is something that we keep at the forefront of the work that we do.
I'm very excited to have Coach Dale Sims giving me a tour of Miami Beach Senior High School. Coach Sims has been the site director for the 5,000 Role Models for 25 years. How would you describe your 25 years as the site director of the 5,000 Role Models here at Miami Beach Senior High School?
My 25 years here as site director for Miami Beach Senior High School has been a very pleasurable experience. It has helped me grow tremendously as a father, as a mentor, as a person. We've had so many kids come through this program that have gone on to do great things and to be very successful in life beyond 5,000 role models, beyond their own communities and impact other communities. So we feel very good about our 5,000 role model graduates.
That's wonderful. You know, a testament to your work here is the fact that several of your former students are now 5,000 Role Model site directors themselves. What would you attribute that to?
I would attribute that to the fact that many of those young men have allowed themselves to become engrossed in the process of 5,000 Role Model as participants. And what they did, we took them on various field trips. We had several activities in school, out school, things that made them stand out as young men, to show their character, the positive character of what was then mostly African-American young men who gave a very positive experience. I had my first year 215 kids in 5,000 Role Models.
Wow.
And they all met in the auditorium. We met here because we didn't have a place to facilitate that large number of kids, and one girl in our first couple of years. And so when she decided not to be a participant in the program, then we moved on, and we had all males after that.
Okay, wonderful. You know, one of the core tenets of the 5,000 Role Models is dropout prevention. What are some strategies that you've seen to be successful in preventing students from dropping out of school?
Well, we used our truancy program, which is here on campus. In our truancy office, there would be several individuals in our truancy office that would allow us to target the kids that were missing classes, and I would immediately put them in 5,000 Role Models. Kids that also had referrals. If they had referrals, they were not getting along in classes, were not doing well, were not being as productive as we thought they should, we would then take them and put them in 5,000 Role Models.
Wow.
And I wanted all of them under the umbrella of then 500 Role Models.
Wow.
And as it evolved and became 5,000 and we grew, then it became 5,000 Role Models. But when we were 500 Role Models, I kind of put them under our wings, under the wings of Dr. Frederica S. Wilson, and that's where we went.
Wow. Well, you mentioned attendance, you mentioned a pattern of bad conduct, and then failing academic grades. And those three indicators, if those three indicators are present, studies show that there's a 75% chance that students will drop out of school. And so it's wonderful that you have put together a chapter here that can intervene for those young men. And you mentioned some of the field trips that the students have taken over the course of the years. Can you talk about some of the trips and some of the experiences that they've been a part of?
Yes, I can. I'd be glad to. The field trips included judge visits to courtrooms with certain judges that were role model mentors. We went to prison visits. We've gone to field trips, fun things, Parrot Jungle, Sequarium. We went to the 5,000 Role Model Martin Luther King Breakfast and Parade. Wow. I've taken the kids to football games, UN football games, UN basketball games, Miami Dolphin games, Miami Heat games. And so we had a lot of experiences. I recall one field trip where just two of us took 127 young men to see the movie Amistad.
Wow.
And when Amistad was out, we took 127 young men over to Aventura to the movies. And it was a very pleasurable experience. They were glad to have the opportunity and to see what it was that has happened throughout the history of the United States.
You just described a tremendous spectrum of exposure for students. What do you think the impact of this kind of exposure is for our young people?
Well, the impact is great. It's tremendous. As a matter of fact, when we had our site directors meeting, I happened to look around and I started to see high tide 1, high tide 2, 3, 4, 5, and we went up to high tide 6. Now, high tide 6 means we had 6 site directors at our site directors meeting that were all 5,000 role model participants here at Miami Beach Senior High School. So I know them, I've seen the success, I know that they're tremendous, outstanding citizens in their communities. And it was good to see how well the role model mentorship is spread throughout the county, and I'm sure nationwide, because there are other guys that don't live here who I know who are doing fantastic jobs outside of the state of Florida.
What would be your advice to those site directors and other adults in our community in terms of providing a carefully charted path for young men to college and career success?
Well, I would say to them, get involved. Get involved in the process of being a productive citizen, where you start at the bottom and you grow as young men. This mentoring program has allowed these young men to grow. It has allowed these young men to feel good about themselves, to know themselves, to have a camaraderie with other young men who have similar backgrounds and share some of the same experiences, so that then when they move on from this place, then you can say, hey, yeah, I remember that program, I remember the tie. And we've always had the hands together, the small hand, large hand, whether it was 500 or 5,000.
What do you think has been the key to your longevity here at Miami Beach Senior High School and with the 5,000 role models?
It's been the tenacity of our great leader, and her leadership skills, Dr. Wilson's she has a tremendous love and passion for helping someone else. And when I see her wanting to help these young men, and someone who's a total stranger who goes out, because that's what my dad was. There was no 500 or 5,000 role models, but they had community leaders in that Brownsville Middle School. He would take the kids to the football games and the basketball games in the neighborhood and get us all summer jobs with Team Clean and other things in the Brownsville and Alapata communities. And he was very active in getting those kids involved and helping us to grow and become young men. And when I saw this, I knew I wanted to be a part of it. It to me is an extension of what I've learned at home, the training and the background that I have.
And you certainly have built on the foundation that your father laid and that so many others have laid in our community. And we thank you. We thank you for your service and for filling in, stepping in the gap. We like to ask, who will teach him to be a man? You have answered the call and said, I will. We will. And thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. 5,000, baby. That's what we do.
We are 5,000.
We are with 5,000.
If you want to get involved with the nation's premier dropout prevention and mentorship program, the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project, give us a call at 305-995-2451, extension 2, or visit www.5000rolemodels.com. We hope that you get involved with the 5,000 Role Models. Until next time.